From Hollywood, Sunday night at 9:30.
Next time on Nova, Interleukin-2, a major cancer breakthrough or a dangerous and expensive bust. Nova looks at the scientific and human drama behind the attempt to forge a potent new weapon in the war on cancer. Join me for Nova's first report on battles in the war on cancer as we spotlight a wonder drug on trial.
Tuesday night at 8 on Houston Public Television.
Depression can be a human being. I mean, it's like it's alive. It just takes a hold of you and it will not let you go.
I just really didn't know who to go to.
One day, I broke down and I cried.
I knew that she didn't want to die. She was just asking for my help.
You don't have to give up just because everything feels awful. You've still got the power of choice.
As long as you choose life, there's a future.
Teenage Problems discussed, Wednesday night at 7:30.
You know about child abuse and you know it's the law to report it. You might know that 80% of TDC inmates were abused children, but did you know that 60% of confirmed abuse cases receive no help? I'm a judge in juvenile court. Every day I see children and families destroyed by this epidemic of abuse. And believe me, the cases I see are only the tip of the iceberg. The cycle of child abuse can only be broken by community involvement. To find out how you can help, call this number. You can make the difference.
Houston Public Television presents the following program in televised stereo sound. Channel 8 is a service of the University of Houston and is supported through the Association for Community Television. This is KUHT Houston.
Dollars and Cents, the program with answers to your financial questions, featuring business and financial reporter Bill Watts and Houston-based investment advisor Jack Sorsick. Dollars and Cents is underwritten by the Pioneer family of mutual funds since 1928, providing high-quality investments for conservative investors.
Welcome to Dollars and Cents. Just this past week, we have continued to get encouraging news about Houston's economy. And research organizations like the Rice Center have made even more encouraging predictions about our future. But a lot of uncertainties remain, and a lot depends on what we do to improve our situation in Houston. Tonight, we're going to talk about that. With me, as always, is our answer man. He's ours, right or wrong, investment advisor Jack Sorsick. Jack, let's start off talking about the sectors of our economy that are still energy dependent. About 6 years ago, I think they described our economy as 80% energy dependent. That's certainly not the case now, is it?
No, Bill, that's now 66%, but that is really the result of an increase in the independent segment as opposed to the energy segment, because obviously the energy industry declined. And you would think that looking at those kinds of numbers that would be the result, but that's really not the case. So we see this growth in this independent segment from energy increasing, and I think this will accelerate as we have new markets and new industries come in Houston.
Why don't you spell out for us exactly what these energy independent sectors are?
Well, we have light manufacturing that's not tied to energy. We have the financial segment. We have trade, both national and international, and both in the wholesale and retail area. We have electronics. We have new firms that are moving in all the time that are small firms. Maybe they have only 10 or 20 employees, but in the aggregate, they really do add up.
Okay, well, what are some of the larger contributors to the energy independent sectors?
Well, as you know, the economy turned in 1987, about the summer of '87, and there were really three industries that contributed to this, and there were aerospace, chemicals, and biomedical. And these are, of course, represented by the Texas Medical Center, by the Port of Houston and the Ship Channel, and by the Johnson Space Center.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that companies are moving in here, small companies, some medium and large-sized companies. What do you think the drawing cards are for those companies, to come to Houston?
Well, there's, of course, ample labor supply. We see the situation where the job growth is going to be moderate. From a company point of view, that means wage rates are going to be kept, the increase is going to be kept moderate. From an individual's point of view, that might not be great, but from the industry, and I guess as they come in and they hire more people and more jobs, we see the expansion. And if they're coming in to lease space, a retail space, here we're going to see a situation where it's very inexpensive. You can almost go any place in town and find vacancies, and so they can really negotiate the cost of the space down.
Mm-hmm. And I guess education is important here too.
Well, we have a really well-educated labor force, and when a company moves in, they're going to be looking at the quality of people and the diversity, and how can they handle the jobs, and that's another very big factor.
Okay, in just a moment we're going to introduce you to our special guest this evening. We'll be back to talk with him in just a moment, but first let's take a look at what happened with some selected Southwestern companies today in the stock market, and also how the market did in general. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Our special guest this evening is former Governor Mark White, who's now an attorney here in Houston. Governor White, well, I just never realized that you were such a glutton for punishment until you told me that you might want to run for office again.
Well, we'll have to wait and see about that.
Well, I appreciate you coming to the program this evening. And, we were just talking, Jack and I, as you heard, we're just talking about the energy sector and the energy independent sectors of Houston's economy. I'm wondering if you think if oil were to go up again to, say, the level of $25 or $30 a barrel, which some people predict could happen down the line, if you think we'd have another boom like we had in the 70s?
Well, I think that it would be different from the 70s. Frankly, the likelihood of it going up to $25 to $30 a barrel is very remote. The capacity, the excess capacity that's available in the Middle East and other countries that are actively exploring for oil will probably keep a oversupply balance, which will tend to hold the price down, particularly in the face of the OPEC countries being unable to truly agree on a production schedule. In addition to that, we have a great deal of excess capacity right now in this country in the sense that we are not stressed in the oil and gas industry. We would have to pick up the slack that's there, even though we've lost a lot of our capacity. There's still excess capacity. And thirdly, I guess, would be the fact that the financial interests of the world would be highly unlikely to go in and debt finance new exploration in oil and gas in this country, recognizing the uncertainty of the price and the ability of the Middle Eastern countries to literally drop the price of oil down below cost of production, frankly down below lifting costs for most countries. They could probably drop it down to $2 or $3 a barrel and still be showing a profit on their books, but no other countries around the world could do that.
I'd like to switch to education. There's many states that are making a substantial investment in education to spur, economic growth. For example, Massachusetts does this. Do you think this is possible in Houston? Can we do it in Texas? And should we do it?
Well, I would like to take a state that's more similar to Texas, and let's look at North Carolina and what a governor did in North Carolina back in 1970s. Now Senator Sanford from North Carolina made a direct investment commitment to North Carolina, the research triangle that we hear so much about, and what they've done there to improve public education has paid off here now almost a generation later with the ability of North Carolina to be a strong, progressive, educationally oriented workforce that can move from one industry to the next depending on the way our economy expands and contracts. That's what I think I try to do when I was governor of Texas, is to make that investment in education so that our workers coming on stream through the years to come will not be dedicated to any one particular economy. They'll be able to move from one economy to the next as they expand and contract. At one time, all we had to do was be cattlemen or ranchers and oil men or timber workers, and for that reason, we were tied to that industry. With education, it frees our workforce to be much more flexible and I think much more productive.
You know, the public schools have been the focus of a lot of controversy in recent years, the demands that they do better. There was the no pass, no play business for athletes that got a lot of controversy. I'm wondering if you have a feel for how well the public schools here in Houston are doing, in particular HISD.
Well, I think that that's one of the treasures that we have here, in spite of the difficulties that every urban school district has throughout the nation. Houston Independent School District is one of the best. I have a child in the Houston schools here today, and I'm very proud of the progress that he's making and the quality of the education he's receiving. We see headlines several weeks ago about one 11th grade group that did not increase their scores. They dropped by 2 percentage points. But let me tell you, the overwhelming numbers are in favor of the Houston Public Schools. We're going up in our SAT scores, we're going up in our team test scores, and I think that it's because we're focusing on the basics that are important for a young person to get through school and into life, become productive citizens. Reading and writing, I don't care what we say about education. A child that is unable to read the English language is unable to be productive in our economy. And for that reason, we must stress the ability to read. That literally breaks the chains around that child for the rest of his life. He can do then anything he chooses to do, be anything he chooses to be, if he is given the ability to read. He can then expand his own horizons depending on his own interest and not be hampered by the horrible complex that arises with someone who is unable to communicate or read.
What is HISD doing to improve its buildings and its facilities?
Well, that's another thing that we've seen here in Texas. We've made strong commitments when I was governor to highway construction. You see the roads being built today. Those are roads built with taxpayer dollars, and I think it's important we have that good network. But the same commitment is being made by our Houston Independent School District for new, improved facilities. Some $600 million in the next 6 years will be expended on improving facilities in all of our schools. We see the evidence of past improvements at many of our schools around Houston today. Good facilities will, I think, attract the quality staff that we need, instructional leaders that we need in these schools. And also, I'm proud to say that we're seeing more pride on the part of the students in the facilities. I was at several of our high schools this past week, and those schools are markedly better taken care of today than they were when I was a student. And there seems to be a greater, kind of more of a collegiate atmosphere around the campus. And there's a better learning atmosphere, I believe, today in these high school campuses than probably existed 25 or 30 years ago. And I think that's a mark of progress that we ought to be congratulating Joan Raymond, the Houston School Board, and the people that are teaching those classes every day in our schools.
Okay. We're going to give our viewers a chance to ask us questions tonight about the overall Houston and Texas economy and other financial matters. If you have a question, give us a call right now at 749-7371. We'll be back to start taking those calls in just a moment. Okay, we're back. Again, the phone number, if you want to call us, is 749-7371. If you have a question about the economy, education, financial matters. We're here to just take on all the comers. And let's go first to Renee. Hi, Renee. You're with us on Dollars and Cents. Hello, Renee. Do I have Charity here?
No, you have me.
What's your name?
My name is Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Apparently I got the wrong information, but what's your question?
I never had talked to anybody.
Oh, okay. Well, what's your question for us,
I'd
Joyce?
like to ask Mark Clark what could be done, or whatever his name is.
Mark White. There you go.
Mark White. I like it. What can be done to stop the greed of the utility companies that are just running us right out of our homes?
Well, there's going to be significant hearings, and I know a great deal of opposition to the rate increase that's been announced, and I think that there's going to be a review of the way in which the utility companies have taken the tax reduction and not refunded or passed back to the customer those literally hundreds of millions of dollars in gains due to that tax cut. And I think that's going to be something that will bear largely over the next several months in the deliberations about how much, if any, increase they're entitled to. There will also be decisions made over whether that was a prudent decision to initiate the nuclear power project. There was a tremendous lawsuit, a large lawsuit filed, and a settlement entered. Some of those monies will be flowed back through the project to reduce the cost. So in spite of what the headlines say, I'm very hopeful that we will not see any rate increase that would come anywhere near the numbers they're talking about. And that means to the individual consumer, myself as well, that we will not be having large flops in those prices. But even as important as that is to us, it's also important that we hold down the industrial utility rates so that we can continue to attract industry to Houston, and to make certain that we're going to be productive of job opportunities for our people so that they can pay the bills that we have in addition to the electric bill.
Joyce, thank you for your phone call. Now let's see if I can get this next one right. Hello, Charity.
Hello.
Hi, what's your question?
What influence does NASA have on Houston's economy?
Ooh. Well, I guess, Jack, you probably can give a better description of that. I can tell you the attitude that NASA has created for Houston, and I think that is a very major factor in our ability to respond to the crisis that we face when oil prices fell from under our economy. We lost a great large segment of it, but NASA is a spiritual boost. It is an economic boost that is measurable in large numbers, and I would guess probably second or third in this economic triad that you might want to put together.
And I think down in Clear Lake, if you just think of what's going on in the real estate markets down there and the attitude of the people, it's really tremendous, and especially since now we've had these successful flights and we've gotten, I think, over that terrible tragedy, and things are really moving on. It just seems like to be a real anchor, you know, for all of Houston right now.
Yes, and also there's a University of Houston campus at Clear Lake that I think was a commitment back in the early 70s that Texas and U of H made to that area that will help give educational opportunity to the families of those people who are working at NASA. And if you'll look at probably the top qualified, the best student body on an educational standard of any in the nation, maybe some of the high schools down there in that area. So I think we have a great economic asset there, and it's also a reservoir of talent for not just space exploration, but developing all of those spin-offs that come from that industry.
Okay, let's take another phone call. This one from John. John, you're on Dollars and Cents.
Yes, I'd like to get your outlook on Houston real estate for the next couple of years.
Okay. Well, again, I think Jack may have a better view of this than I do, but let me say I've made a significant commitment to the future of Houston's real estate. My wife and I bought a house here, and even though they say we may have gotten it at a low part in the market, it seems that, like every other family I know, we always spend all we have just to live, you know, and so we have made our own personal commitment to the real estate market here, and I think that right now Houston should take these low prices that we see out there in real estate, the vacancy rates. That's a sad thing in one way, but it's an asset in another. It's time for Houston to do what Texans have long been known for, and that's bragging about our state. We need to brag about it to someone other than to ourselves. We need to be advertising Texas and the opportunities that we have here to people around the country and around the world. Let them see that the prices are low. Now's the time to invest in Texas and be a part of our future.
I think we've seen that that turn. That, you know, we had so much negative press for so many years. You couldn't pick up a magazine and say that, you know, Houston was going down the drain. And I just see, especially like in the apartment market, there's a lot of people. They're coming in from Boston and New York and Chicago. They're coming in saying, "Boy, these I've never seen anything like." You know, the deals that are here. And I think we're seeing that start to go. And then I think maybe more so in the you know, in commercial buildings. I think we'll see that trend. People start buying in that area too.
I had a lot of fun today when I talked to one of my friends up in Chicago, and he said, "What's the weather like down there?" I said, "Oh, it's about 60 degrees. And it looks like it's just, you can see forever." And he said, "Oh, my Lord, it looks like the end of the world up here."
Okay, let's take another phone call. This one from Lewis. Hi, Lewis. You're on Dollars and Cents.
Thank you. I had two questions. One for the former governor. I wanted to ask him if he would be able to speculate on what dominant industry the state could push into the next, say, decade that we could again possibly dominate as we have the oil and gas industry. And number two for Jack, if he saw any downsides to investing in Treasury bills. I'll hang up and listen, and thank you.
Two really separate topics there.
Well, I think what we need to do is opposed to go out and try to dominate an industry. We have one industry right now that I think we ought to take better advantage of, and that's the Texas Medical Center. NASA we share with some in Huntsville and Florida and a lot in California and investments in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts and the Northeast. But when it comes down to medical treatment, Texas and the Texas Medical Center, we have twice the investment at the Texas Medical Center of any other medical center anywhere in the world. We're twice as large. By measure of quality, we are as good or better than anywhere else in the world. We ought to take advantage of that and continue to build on it. Biosciences and all of the health associated industries that will be part of this medical center, we need to be attracting pharmaceutical companies and the research that goes with the development of new pharmaceuticals. And I think that this is a perfect place for them to be. We have low taxes, we have great educational opportunities, a good quality of life, and an investment in medical research that's second to none anywhere in the world.
On Treasury bills, of course, they're short-term investment and obviously extremely safe. Let me tell you the only downside is something maybe you might not have thought about. The rates obviously are somewhat lower than, let's say, longer intermediate-term rates. But and they're closer now than they used to be. But my concern is maybe for the older retired individual who is staying in these short-term rates, and it's going to happen to them like happened, let's say, in the early 80s, where we had these real high short-term rates, and then they really count on that income. They get used to spending that amount of income, and then the short-term rates go down on them, and all of a sudden their income is cut by a third. So that for certain kinds of people, I think people that are older, that are on fixed income, they may use this as an opportunity maybe to go out a little bit longer. Maybe now is the time to think about moving some money out of like Treasury bills into something that's a little bit longer term and lock in that good fixed long-term rate.
Okay, let's move on to our next phone call from Leonard. Hello, Leonard. You're with us on Dollars and Cents.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to direct a question to Governor White.
Mm-hmm.
Governor?
Yes, sir. Hi, Leonard.
I'm sure you've got a pretty good general idea of how the city of Houston, the state of Texas, is proceeding to hopefully expand the economy here. But the question I would put to you is whether or not, I'm not aware of the facts as how they operate their program, but I was wondering whether or not they've utilized the media, both the television and the radio, to advertise in the more affluent parts of the country or the more prosperous segments of the country to show a comparative opportunities that are in this area. For example, housing, comparative prices on housing, comparative prices on available space for industrial and retail purposes, and things of that nature.
Send your industries to Texas, I think is what the
in order
say.
to entice, what I'm talking about primarily is to advertise on television in the northern and western part of the country, showing the advantages that individuals who may wish to move to Texas would find. For example, relatively cheap housing, good housing, but relatively reasonable prices, inexpensive.
Let's let the governor answer. Okay.
Leonard, you've hit on one of my most favorite topics. Not only have we not advertised on television, we haven't advertised anywhere. The city of Houston, and I tell you right now, they're working hard at economic development, but they don't have an advertising budget. I think it's a tragedy. The state of Texas, and let me brag on Bill Clements for a minute. and this won't take long. He combined several agencies at the state level to make them more efficient, hopefully, and with lower cost, and then he cut their budget. We ought to increase our advertising budget to do just as you've said, let people around the country and around the world know what an opportunity exists for them here in Texas. And what we should be trying to do at this time in our state's history that we have no income tax, we ought to be letting people around the country and around the world know that we don't have a state income tax in Texas. Bring the productive people to Houston. Bring them to Texas. And I believe that we will see an expanding economy which will prevent the need, as some people would say, that we might have to change our tax structure. I quite support what you say, and I wish that you would lend your voice to the efforts at trying to expand our advertising budget so that we can let people know what Texas has to offer them and for the future.
Okay, let's move on now to Doug. Hi, Doug. You're on Dollars and Cents.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about when we voted in November, we voted for, I believe, the passage of releasing of monies for the economic expansion. And I was wondering if the Houston area is going to take advantage of the funds being made available for economic development through industrial expansion, like not only for new types of industry, but industries that the U.S. has lost its competitive edge.
Well, that vote in November created the opportunity for certain investments to be made in venture capital, a venture capital opportunity created through our various pension funds and other long-term investment capacities at the state level. And those dollars are not particularly large in the overall scheme of things, but they can be, I think, effectively used to develop small opportunities that can grow into much better job opportunities for all our people, and let those imaginative people in our world today have an opportunity to bring their imagination to Texas and to bring those jobs that hopefully will flow from their imaginative enterprise.
Okay, next caller is Arthur. Arthur, you're on Dollars and Cents.
Yes, sir. My question will be directed to Governor Mark White. Why does there seem to be such a drive from the state legislative standpoint to bring about a state income tax when it appears to really depress economic conditions, especially in the business sector?
Okay.
Well, I never have been part of that drive. In fact, I have opposed the state income tax. I asked the Texas legislature, albeit not successfully, to pass a constitutional amendment opposing a state income tax that would prohibit a state income tax, because I think what we need to do is to build incentives for people who are income productive to come to Texas and to be a part of our future, and thus expand job opportunities for all our people.
Okay, thank you very much. And Arthur, that was a good question. Governor White, thank you for joining us this evening. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right. If you couldn't reach us by phone tonight, you can write Dollars and Cents and Jack Sorsick at this address: Dollars and Cents, KUHT-TV, 4513 Cullen Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77004. Next week, we look to another aspect of financial success. Who's our guest then, Jack?
Bill, joining us will be business consultant and psychologist Jim Will, and we'll discuss developing the right frame of mind for success.
All right, so don't let a bad attitude keep you from joining us next Friday. Now, for everyone at Dollars and Cents, good night.
Dollars and Cents is underwritten by the Pioneer family of mutual funds. Since 1928, providing high-quality investments for conservative investors.
Hi, I'm David Weekley, and if you're a public television viewer like I am, you'll understand the value of Channel 8. You'll also realize that Channel 8 requires the support of the community that it serves. We at David Weekley Homes accept that responsibility, and we're proud to provide the 1989 tele-auction home. The home will be located right here in the Woodlands and will be completed in April of 1989. So be sure to tune in and watch for us and do your part for public TV.
To donate new merchandise, antiques, or collectibles, call 748-88